call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Roulette?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Mr. Allen?
Yes. Next item will be the statement by the Board Vice President, Mr. Jerry Denton.
As we begin this meeting, let us pause for a 60-second moment of silence to reflect, meditate, pray, or engage in other silent activity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item will be the Pledge of Allegiance by the Board Clerk, Ms. Brandy Roulette.
Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Oh, real quick, we'll get there. I'm sorry. We'll get to the consent. I apologize. Next item will be discussion and vote to approve the June 7th board meeting minutes. Any discussion?
Make a motion to approve?
I'll second that motion.
Got a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Roulette?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Mr. Allen?
Yes, thank you. Next, item number 5, discussion to vote on the June 10th and 11th board meeting minutes. Any discussion?
Make a motion to approve?
I'll second that motion.
Got a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Roulette?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Mr. Allen?
Yes. Thank you. Next, item number 6, Ms. James.
Good evening, President Allen and the board and Dr. Vincent. I am here this evening to put before you a vote to approve a memorandum of understanding with 3 of our teachers. In addition to the grant that we as a district complete with Carl Perkins and with the Career Technology Centers, they also have opportunity for teachers to apply for lottery grants. It's money that would add, purchase anything such as materials or supplies that would enhance the program that our teachers who teach CTE courses offer. So we have 3 teachers who applied and were awarded money, so I'd like to outline those for your review. First of all, we have Robert Dumas. He's a STEM teacher at Oneida Ridge, and the amount he was granted was $14,988. Sheila Brewster, FCS sponsor at the high school, in the amount of $14,864.54. And Thomas Barrow, who is a STEM teacher at BAHS, for the amount of $13,799.70. So I'd like you to grant approval for the MOU and then congratulate them and recognize those teachers this evening.
Any comments or?
Wow. Excited. Happy to make that motion to approve.
Me too.
I'd like to thank each one of them for taking the time to
Yes.
apply and just having that passion for our kids. 'Cause
Me
it's
too.
going to definitely make an impact, and just appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Are they here this evening?
They are, sir.
Would they stand
We
up
have
and let's
Sh-
recognize
yeah.
them?
Sheila and Thomas are both here this evening.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Absolutely. Make a
And-
motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and second, please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Roulette?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Mr. Allen?
Yes. Ms. James, is there a big check or anything that they can?
No,
send
I
up?
wish we need to get one. You just want the cards or mark off one and write it in, sorry.
If you all do that again, you gotta bring a big check, and so we get some pictures.
Sounds good.
Thank you all again very much. Thank you very much. Next item, number 7, Ms. Dias.
Okay, great. Good evening, Dr. Vinson, Mr. Allen, and members of the board. I'm excited this evening to bring to you a recommendation of employment for the Director of Virtual Programs and Instructional Technology. Just to clarify, we've had this past year, we had a principal at Broken Arrow Virtual Program at Academy. So this is not a new position. It's really basically reclassifying that position. What we found through the year was with the growth of students and the distance learning, blended learning, all the opportunities we have out there for our students, we wanted somebody with some experience in technology, instruction, and also that big picture that we want to grow in the district. So we have changed this position to a director, and they will oversee Virtual Academy as well as all of our instructional technology and programs, Chromebooks, Canvas, and all those things in the district. So with that said, I would like to recommend for that position Mr. Chitty. Mr. Chitty he's a lifer from Broken Arrow. He's in the back row with his family. He comes to us with classroom teaching experience. He's been over our Chromebooks, our instructional technology. He helped initiate all the one-to-one and has kept us going with Canvas and all of our online PD for the past year. We're super excited to recommend him for this position. He comes with a lot of energy, experience, and he's very highly respected in the district.
Well, Mr. Chitty, do you mind standing up?
But I would just say at the end of the day, I'm nothing without the experience and the pathway that has led me here from people like you that have paid those. So really it's just the support of coming out of the classroom. I remember Dr. Vincent's call and said, hey, we need to come out. And at first it was just about computer science and looking at that stuff. And then it just grew from there. And so those people believing in me and putting that belief and then taking it from there is where we've gotten. And I know from the great leadership I'll have and the support of them and the innovative board that we have, that we will do amazing things from here on out. So continuing those things.
You know, it's funny, Mr. Chitty, I remember you weren't too keen on the thought of leaving the classroom. You had the first paperless classroom in the district, and you weren't too thrilled about leaving the classroom. So it's crazy how far we come, isn't it?
People that you want, right?
Yep,
People that,
yep.
You know, because you always look back and then your passion is to make classrooms successful. That's all we're supposed to do, right? So,
Absolutely.
whether they're virtual, whether they're in session or blended or whatever those look like. So
Yep.
I'm excited to take this journey with you all. So thank you for your support.
Very good.
Can he introduce his family too?
Yes,
Would you please introduce your family?
Yes, I'll need to vote on it.
There's Les and my mom, Fran, all the way from Tucson, Arizona. They're here for the 4th of July.
It's like, wow.
Christmas and the 4th of July, they drive all the way here. But a fun story, so these two, we shipped them out 2 weeks ago and on an airplane. It was the weirdest thing ever. Said bye to them and they walked off and then they got 16-hour drive with Grandma and Grandpa back. So they're real close now. So, and then they have my dad, Rick. He's actually a retired fireman from Tucson,
Nice.
Arizona. So great thing. I went to school to be a fireman, and then when I figured out that you put out only like 1% of fires, and then you like try to save people that are in trouble, this wasn't for me. So, and I was with the living in school a little bit more, right? So my wife, Cassie, my amazing second half, as of 17 years this year.
Yeah.
My little boy Asher here, 9 years old, and my daughter Reagan at 12. So life's happening, guys, and I appreciate it. Throwing some more stuff in there. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll need a vote. Yeah. Go ahead.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and second, please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Roulette?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chitty, I'd like to make one comment. And I'm speak probably just for the consensus of the board. You know, the level of expectation is high for you. What we've done at Vanguard with that facility is top notch. We hope to mirror that and hope that our virtual offering is the pinnacle and the beacon in Oklahoma, that people are gonna come to you, come to Broken Arrow and go, how'd you do it? That's what we hope. And I feel comfortable with this board here, that knowing that whatever support it may be from funding, that we're all in, because we want that as well. So we challenge you with that. So,
Amen.
So, and thank you, and best of luck. Okay, next item, number 8, Ms. James.
Good evening, President Allen, Board, and Dr. Vincent. I would like to place before you for approval for the employment of Miss Julie Sunderland as our early college high school principal. I'm excited with Julie. She's a lifer as well, so we have roots here that we're hiring this evening. People who are committed and invested in our community and have families who are invested. With Julie, just the growth that we have seen with her, the goals she set with herself over the last few years has been phenomenal. The relationship she has with her peers and other administrators is, it's just so highly effective, and they respect her, which I think in this position at early college is required, because she is really having to work with so many different programs and making sure that what we offer at early college aligns with the high school and the other sites. In addition, she stepped up for us. Ms. Dias and I asked her to step up and help us with BAPS this past year with so many of the struggles we had with just the numbers and over the challenges that we encountered. She was able to step up and commit to doing that along with her job at Sequoia. I know Ms. Johnson called me today. She hates to lose her because she just has an awesome ability to create relationships with families and with students. And for us at early college high school, it's a huge leap for parents to allow their kids to participate in this program sometimes, because they're afraid. They've never went through the program or been in college sometimes. So we need somebody who can really help them understand and smooth that fear with those families and say, we're going to take care of your kiddos and get them through this process. So we just feel like that Julie Ms. Sunderland is the best candidate for this position. So we would like your approval for her employment.
Questions or discussion?
She has her family.
Well, let's do a vote
Do it.
this time,
We're gonna
because we
do
didn't,
it.
I messed that up. We did it
You're throwing
backwards last
me a
time.
curve
And I don't want to do that to her, or everyone, so I apologize.
Make a motion to approve?
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second, please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Roulette?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Her family is
All
here. I would
right.
love for you to recognize Ms. Sunderland and her family.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled for this opportunity. I'm so excited. Quite the pathway that's led me here, and I'm just really thrilled to see what happens. Tonight with me, I have my husband Blake, my son Shane, my daughter Sadie,
Oh.
my dad Gary, and my good friend Kaylin.
Congratulations. Thank you, Ms. James. Next items, comments from the public. We have none. Ms. James, you're back up.
Thought I would stay for your convenience. I don't want to take time. At this time, I'd like to present, each year we're required to present our graduation rate, Oklahoma's higher ed of attrition that they have, and students who require remedial services when they go to college. The crazy thing with this is that it gets very confusing, but we are actually approving the data from 2019. So, because the state's always delayed, you're always a year behind. So what I'm presenting today is two pieces. So on table 1 on the document I shared with you guys, I outlined our senior year cohort rate. So what that actually means is that for every senior who is with us October 1, and those who are with us at graduation at the end of May, we have a 92% graduation rate. The table 2 is about our 4-year cohort, which the state has outlined that any student who enters any of our 9th through 12th grade buildings, programs, at any point during those 4 years and leaves are still part of that cohort and the rate of which they measure our graduation rate or success. So if we have somebody who drops out and we can't find them and they don't go to another accredited district in the state of Oklahoma, they count against our data. So this cohort oversees anybody. This could be somebody who was in with us for 1 day, as much as 3 years and 6 months. You know, they still measure the same. So what I've included in this is our 4-year score of 86.99, Our 5-year, which is 91.78. So we get credit additional in the formula for our A to F grade, any kiddo that comes back as a 5th-year senior, and that we're able to close the gap and get them graduated. And then again, we get a 6-year formula increase as well. For that, we have an 89.62%. We see a lot of students who are in special ed needs who are, extremely handicapped that sometimes need an additional year for that 5 years. So we're excited to see that because they need that, and so it doesn't count so much against us in the formula. 86.99 needs to be higher, and that's one of our goals. So we have done some different things to start addressing that. Some of those things I've listed at the top of the document, we really are doing more grade level, looking at those kids. Why are they missing school? Where are they at? Identifying early when they're behind so that we can get them into virtual courses or get them into summer school. Deliberate and consistent interaction with parents. That is big. We have to get in front of those students and bring them into the educational process. It can't just be something we're doing between us and the students. We need them engaged and part of our team. Credit recovery, I can't say enough about Ms. Turner as she has come in for our Options Academy. She's increased the number of students we're taking at the Options Academy by almost 100 students. She's she's taking care of our 5th-year seniors, so if they do virtual classes, she's connecting with them. Through the pandemic last March, she and her team were literally making visits to homes. When they weren't at home, they were going to their businesses. So we're doing a whole lot of things of getting outside and really reconnecting with those students. We're doing advisory strategies. Part of the research that we have discovered is that when students understand what classes I need to take, how it connects to my goal, which would be your pathway, and then also having them each year say, where am I at? What have I missed? What do I need to do? What did me not paying attention and failing that class cost me? Then they are more engaged and more likely to stay in school and continue to graduate. Last but not least, the last 2 things is really focusing on attendance. We have to have them in class or they're not going to pass the class. And then when they don't pass the class, they become discouraged and they pull out. And we're competing when they're out working. Some of them are working, and when you're saying, hey, I'm working Love Quick Trip or Brahms or wherever, and I'm making $12, it's hard for them to say, hey, I'm gonna go back and take this class that I have no interest in whatsoever, which brings in our need for pathways, which we're working on. We've delayed, and through this pandemic, it was tough. A lot of our partners were like, well, we can't bring in your kiddos and work with that when we're laying people off because of COVID, and then also the restrictions that were in place. So we are gunning that back up, reestablishing those connections and partnerships to complete those pathways and get more opportunities for kids to be out working in the field so that they see the relevance and are engaged. So those are our strategies. We see that it's low. That's not what we're going to settle for. So we're going to continue working with all of our team and with each site to say, what else can we do? So do you have any, I kind of want to give you oversight. Is there any questions that I can assist
I appreciate the oversight. I'm
Okay.
glad to see that there's a plan of looking ahead and
Yeah.
what can we do to make that better, because I mean, and the things you talked about, it's exciting to hear. I mean, it would be nice to get that pathways going back again and getting that connection, because I mean, I think that's key.
It is key. Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate the first strategy of the student being involved in the graduation checklist, because we know that consistently in research. John Hetty does a lot of research on what's most effective in education, but kids taking ownership of their own learning always ranks in the top 3. So that's, I mean, that's a key indicator of whether a student will actually complete their diploma.
What for me, what's the number that would make us be 100% of students? You see like the 4 years at 86.9. What is that relative to, how many students does that?
Well, that would mean, like for this year, for us, for this current school year, for 21's cohort, that would be 1,300 students walking across our stage to get their diploma. So,
Right, but what's in order for us from that, say to get 6 years to 100%, we gotta get this many more kids to graduate?
oh, I see what you're saying, breaking that down,
Yeah.
So 10% would be like of 1,300, 130 kids. So we're looking at 180 more kids that we would need to pick up, which that's doable. I mean, that means we're taking care of almost 1,200 students who are doing what they need to do. We're meeting their needs. So to me, let's say 200 over the next 6 years, that if we increase by that, I feel we could get to that.
With the laws surrounding special ed, though, and parents, of course, having the right to say, we want to stretch this educational experience out till my student reaches 21, is is it realistic to hit that 100% at the 4-year mark, or is it more realistic to hit it at the 6-year when we hit all of those IEPs?
I think, yes, it would be realistic the 6-year for sure. But I think what would be doable and could be expected is that for those 200 kids that do not walk across the stage, we're able to say, Sharon James did not walk across the stage. Here's why she didn't walk across the stage. Here are the things we did and put in place that we did or we couldn't, the challenges that may not be in our hands that are out of our hands, that the parents are making decisions. So I say yes, by the 6th year for sure, the 100%, we could aim for that. That'd be our goal. But for that 4-year is really to be able to have a narrative for you guys to say, okay, where were those kids? Where were our patterns? Why are we losing them? And to really be able to give that narrative. Jennifer Peterson she didn't graduate because she became ill, got behind. Mom and Dad have moved her to Texas now to go to get the medical needs that she has, whatever it happens to be.
Right.
But I think it would be doable by the 6th year for sure. But I'll set it for whatever you guys deem as appropriate and what your expectations are. But definitely if we can't meet that, my goal would be to be able to have that narrative. Why did these kids not graduate? And understand each kid, not just, we had 16% of our students not graduate. I don't think it needs to be names, not a percentage or a number. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So, President Allen, did that
Yes,
meet?
yeah, yep.
Okay. Any other questions on this piece? Okay, I also have included for you, this was a Barisi recommendation requirement of law that we present to you guys. The data from Oklahoma Higher Ed, the state regents put together, and this is based on 2018 data, so it's out of date at this point. In addition, through TCC and the communication paths with other post-secondary colleges, they are really looking at doing away with remedial courses. I think they have found that placing a kid in there and then just, hey, we're going to close this gap really isn't. There's more they can be doing within their courses as well. But that being said, we're required by law to place this before you for your review. So as you can see, this lists several schools around us and districts. So you can look across and say how many kiddos need a remediation in science, English, math, or reading. The totals, kind of where I'm looking at, is saying that 227 of our students who enrolled as a freshman in the fall after their graduation required remediation. It's 41%, and that's a lot. It's within we're not far behind or anybody else. A lot of our schools are kind of around us. But I think there's definitely, I know there's room for us to improve on that. We've already put in place some things. One of the biggest things that I think we'll see an impact being made is through reviewing our math classes that we offer at middle school. In the past, we've done advanced math, which I think Dr. Vincent, you helped get that started and kind of get that process going. We've gone back and reviewed that. We were skipping some skills and gaps in learning. So we went back and said, we're not going to skip and move you forward. We're going to compact those classes. We're going to do an extension. So not skipping 7th grade math, we're doing 6th and 7th grade in 1 year for those students who are advanced in math and need to be moving at a faster rate. I think we'll see that benefit in the next couple of years. We'll begin to see those students performing at a higher level because they didn't miss a whole year of math. That's just one of the things we're doing. We're also looking at reading and increasing that. We've provided more programs that we have interventions, identifying areas in which to really close those gaps in reading. Ms. Hennis and Ms. Peterson are working on the elementary because it takes the whole village. It's not just a senior thing that they have to close the gap. It's really the foundation we're building on. So again, I think it's something to look at. It's outdated, I hate that, but I still think it's somewhere to start and for us to identify ways that we can increase. We want kids being successful and being ready to move into college algebra, Comp 1, Comp 2, and so on. Is there any questions about this piece of it?
I have one.
Okay.
With the requirements to graduate high school,
Yes, sir.
do you think there's an impact? Because a lot of times you hear kids just got to show up for senior English,
Mm-hmm.
and then, if you're having that year of gap and not having math, or
Right.
those, surely that would have to have some sort of
It's
impact.
very important.
When you're going to college, I haven't done algebra for a whole year,
Exactly.
I've got all my requirements, so.
That's part of our guidance that we do. We have a lot of parents like, oh, I'm gonna get through my math. I've got my 3rd math as a junior, I'm finished.
Mm-hmm.
And we will tell them, it's not good for you to set out a whole year without math. It's not good for you to set out. We also have conversation with our teachers. We've got to increase the rigor so that students are comfortable. We have to build up to that so that comp one or senior English, I'm not just showing up and checking off, I was here, I participation. It can't be that. They have to be able to read for information, gain understanding from the things that were put in place for them, so that they do go to college or even to the career field, they're gonna be able to read a form or directions or a manual in which to be successful. So those two avenues, you're correct. We do provide guidance, and that's something we've been working with the counseling department of increasing their ability to provide correct, honest guidance for those parents and students to say, it's not good to skip a year without that. We have also created programs or math classes, because some of them are like, hey, I'm not advanced math, but I've met my third math. Well, we're offering additional senior courses that are not, you're not having to move to a Calc AB. You're able to go into math statistics. You're able to go into another class that still hones the skills that you have, but isn't pushing you so far that you're like, ready to jump off the edge of the building by, mid-semester. So I think there's some different things we can do to continue, but I think those are two of the biggest things. Guidance and creating those additional courses that support to hone their skills before they go into college algebra.
I think another factor that we need to keep in mind also, since this was in 2018, the Board of Higher Regents has been in the process really the last 2 years of trying to clean up the whole process of remedial courses at the college level, because the ugly side of it is that a lot of universities and colleges use this as bread and butter. So you tell a student, no, you need more courses, then you get another semester of tuition. Now, what they also realized through research is that those students that they were placing in remedial courses had a much lower rate of graduating, completion of their plan of study. So now colleges, I think, are finally starting to turn that corner back the other way and say, no, we really don't want to place them in remedial courses if we can avoid it at all. And we've done a lot working through the State Department, the SREB courses, things like that, where we can catch those gaps in the high school before they go into college.
And in addition to, colleges have begun to look at college algebra differently. There's not one college algebra for everybody. There's some that's for STEM, or maybe I'm going into a liberal arts, or maybe I'm going to this, so there's different college algebras. In addition, following Dr. Vincent's lead, you brought back from one of your meetings that you were like, hey, let's look at branching out and offering different STEM maths. We're doing that, and actually Ms. Turner at Options Academy is piloting that this coming year. That we've taken Algebra 2, we're pulling out the pre-calc, focusing on skills that would prepare them for college algebra. And that way they don't get so overwhelmed with that and say, hey, I can't do this. And when we're asking them to do standards that are not required to be successful at college algebra. So really looking at too what we're offering, what courses we're doing, what standards we're looking at, and ensuring that we have a kiddo who's, if we're gonna do pathways, we've gotta provide math that fits the pathway they're doing, so that does not become a challenge.
And OSU kind of was on the forefront of that, of the non-STEM majors and having different entry points in math, other than it just being college algebra. So you can, for example, take a statistics pathway, and I've often said, if you're not teaching math for us, I'd rather a teacher have statistics than college algebra, because that teaches you how to really look at student learning data and disaggregate it. So we're excited that OSU has done that, and I think most of the other state schools are following suit.
Absolutely, I think so. And like I said, the branch thing that you brought back to us is fun. I'm excited. So we'll continue to share that data with you as we see how those students are being successful.
Very good.
Was there any other questions I can assist with or provide more information?
All right.
Okay.
Next item, thank you, Ms. James.
Yeah,
Next
thank
item
you.
is the consent. Before we approve this, we're gonna need to remove item 74 from the consent. There was a new contract with some different language or something. They have to redo the contract, so we need to,
And that was 74.
74. We need to remove item 74 from
Yeah, we
consent.
just received information from Dish, was it
Yeah.
Friday or today?
Actually, I got it yesterday.
Yesterday, okay.
So that item be removed, so we can make the motion to approve
Okay.
removing item 74.
Okay.
If you guys would, as the board wishes.
I'd like to make a motion to remove item number 74 from the general consent items. And then after that, I want to go ahead and make a motion to approve the remaining items.
I'll second those motions.
Motion and a second, please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Relay?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Mr. Allen?
Yes, thank you. Next item will be approval of the regular board meeting dates as presented in your packet. Standard. annual item that we do.
Okay.
Any discussion, questions? Entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve?
I'll second that motion.
Motion and second, please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Relay?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Mr. Allen?
Yes. Next item will be the subcommittee dates that were attached to that board meeting dates as they have been discussed. So again, standard annual item here.
Make a motion to approve?
I'll second that motion.
Motion and second, please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Relay?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Mr. Allen?
Yes. Next item, Ms. Dias.
Okay, I'm just bringing back to you the final reading for the dress code policy 4080. See if you have any questions before that goes for approval.
This is the leg wear and all that.
Yeah, so just basically, just in a nutshell, they're not humongous changes, but it's just kind of narrowing down some of the clothing attire that we didn't think was appropriate for school. We will get with communications once this is approved, make sure parents are aware and continue to notify. And then also the other change that was a little significant, it's for grades 3rd through 12th, so that pre-K through 2nd grade, the students, sometimes, you know, they do wear leggings. They have bigger issues than whether they can wear leggings. It's pulling up their jeans. So, you know, there's things like that. So pre-K through 2nd grade, exceptions can be made by the administrator, and then the rest are all pretty much the general dress code, just with a few revisions.
Any discussion or questions?
Make a motion to approve?
I'll second that motion.
Motion second, please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Relay?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Ms. Dias. Ms. Goodacre, come on down. Haven't seen you in a while.
Been around, has
I'm asking for your approval tonight for the commodity processing that we do every year. We bid this with the Tulsa Buying Group, and we do it according to USDA regulations.
Any questions or discussion?
Make a motion to approve?
I'll second that motion.
Motion and second, please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Relay?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Mr. Allen?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Goodacre.
I didn't get a
Oh, didn't get a
voting.
voting button.
There it is. It's up now.
There we go.
Oh,
Thank
there it
you.
is.
Next up, Ms. Enif.
Good
You're
evening.
up.
Good evening, President Allen, Dr. Vinson, members of the board. I'm asking you tonight to approve to award construction contracts for the Westwood renovation project to the lowest responsible bidder and reject the concrete bid package and assign such construction contracts to Miller Tippins Construction and approve the amendment to the construction management contract establishing a GMP in the amount of $1,314,437. Just so you're aware, this bid was rejected back in April, and so when it was rebid through construction management, it saved about $200,000 off that cost. And the rejection of the concrete package, since it is under $50,000, we're hoping to quote that out and get that within budget.
Okay. You said it's within 50,000,
Correct.
so you don't need that, okay.
It won't be competitively bid.
Okay. Questions or discussion?
Make a motion to approve?
I'll second that motion.
Motion and second, please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Relay?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Mr. Allen?
Yes. Mr. Sutton? Have not met you, but welcome.
Well, thank you. Good evening, President Allen, Dr. Vinson, and members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I would like to request your approval of the proposal to set the time, operation, calendar, tuition, and employee rates for the Broken Arrow Public School staff daycare at Arrow Springs. The proposal is based on information that we received from surveys that we sent out to all BAPS staff just to assess their child care interests and needs. So I'm going to start with the calendar. Generally speaking, our calendar would be open from August to May. During the first 3 weekdays in August, we would designate those as professional development days. The third weekday, we would host a Meet the Teacher night, and we would be open for full service on the fourth weekday during the first week of August. Our Child Care Center would remain open through the end of May or 1 week past the final day of school, whichever is later. Our center will remain open on all scheduled distance learning days. We will close on the holidays and the scheduled breaks that our district offices are closed, and that would also include spring break and winter break. And our center would actually remain closed during the summer. Our hours of operation would be Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Our tuition, we set our prices based on the research that we did with child care centers in the area, and we think that our rates are competitively priced. They're actually set lower than most child care centers in the area. So our full-time rates will be for infants to age 1, $800 a month. From age 1 to age 2, it'd be $750 a month. From age 2 to age 3, it'd be $700 a month. And age 3 to 4 would be $650 a month. Based on the feedback that we received from our surveys, we realized that we needed to consider a part-time option. And so we did come up with a menu and a package for part-time rates. What we would offer is staff who had children 2 years old or older would be able to choose either a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday option or a Tuesday and Thursday option. The part-time rate for 2-year-olds using the Monday, Wednesday, Friday option would be $420 a month. And for that same age group, the Tuesday, Thursday option would be $280 a month. For 3-year-olds using the Monday, Wednesday, Friday option, it would be $300 a month. And the part-time rate for Tuesday, Thursday would be $260 a month. In December, we'd like to reduce tuition by half for both full-time and part-time participants. There will be a one-time non-refundable enrollment fee of $75 per family. I almost said $750. It'd be terrible. Deals off at that point.
Yeah, you lost a bunch of them there.
And then there will be a yearly supply fee of $100 per child for students that are age 2 and older, and that's just to help with the materials that they need for arts and crafts. For the employee rates of pay, we would like to request that staff be paid according to the current BNA Connections pay scale. And with the current space available at Arrow Springs, we would be able to serve 68 students or kids, and that would be full capacity. We would need 20 staff to make that a reality. 10 of those would be full-time, 10 would be part-time. And so these are just the first steps in our journey to make this child care center a reality. We have a lot of work to do. We've got to, get our licensing and approval from DHS, but we're excited about the challenge. We think it's a way that we can draw people into our district and serve our district. And we appreciate your support and any feedback that you would have for us. So are there any questions that I can answer for you all?
No,
Questions or discussion?
well laid out.
I have just one question. 68, is that more or less than you guys expected when you did your survey? Or do you expect growth once people go, hey?
So that's a good question. There are two things. One, it was room availability. So we only have 7 rooms that we could use.
Oh, gotcha.
And so then when we sent out our survey, we had to set our capacity based on the responses that we received.
Okay.
And DHS licensing limits the number of students that we can have. So in our survey, we actually had a surprising number of people who are either expecting or have a lot of infants. That reduces the number of students that we can have in a classroom. And so that's the biggest factor, is we're a little bit heavy on the infant side. So,
Okay.
I
So
have
in a
to-
few years, maybe.
in a few years, yes, that's right.
I want to say that it would be easy for us to just rest and not try anything new. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your work and Ms. Hennis's work on this. This has been something for years that employees have wanted, and to be able to serve our employees in this way is huge. And I know we're just starting out, and we even had the conversation. I said, let's start small, let's walk first, let's get really good at this, and then we can run and expand it. But the worst thing that we could do is start out and then it be a complete disaster. And so we'll learn this year, but I also know that from your experience and Ms. Hennis's experience, that I have full faith that it will be ready to go and run well.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And Dr. Vincent, I think that's one key component that, you know, we talk about here at BA. You know, we want to be the place that people want to come to. And this is just one thing that, you know, again, we can do to try and distinguish us or differentiate us from the other districts. I mean, the competition is high. You know, we've always said we want to be the best paying. We want to be the best in education, graduation, and things like this. And, you know, taking another step towards doing what our employees would really like to attract the top candidates. I think this is just another step. And I'm grateful that we're taking this planned approach instead of going, hey, let's do everything, boil the ocean all at once.
Sure.
You know, and making certain we do it right, because again, you know, I think that's a key factor. And so welcome and thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
It's exciting. I'm sure there's.
Is there a
68
discount for
excited
having
people.
multiple?
Well, I'm sorry, John. My bad.
Yes, we would like to offer a discount. So, and it's consistent. I have
The man with
twins.
triplets.
Yeah.
So when I was looking for childcare for my twins, you know, it's amazing to me. It's expensive.
Yes.
Even looking at the rates today, I got a couple of pieces of information. It's about $1,015 for one child to go as an infant to childcare. That's half a teacher, you know, take-home pay. So,
Right.
you know, most centers, including ours, we would offer a 10% discount for multiples. It's the right thing to do. But
And even just having an additional kid, same thing? or-
yes, and I probably did. I don't know that I put that in the notes.
I know, I'm not seeing it, I don't know.
Okay. We'll clean that up for you guys. I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
Great news.
That's exciting. Very exciting. Any other questions or discussion?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Roulette?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Mr. Allen?
Yes. Mr. Sutton, thank you for all the hard work on that.
Absolutely.
That's outstanding. Thank you. Ms. Ena?
Yes, good evening again. I'd like to ask the board tonight to approve the renewal of our district cyber insurance from Towers at a price of $17,658 for fiscal year '22. As a reminder, the district has carried cyber insurance for several years now. We were actually, I think, one of the first districts to take on this additional coverage, and definitely proved worthy 3 years ago when we had our ransomware attack. I do definitely want to thank Mr. Bowser and the technology team, Mr. Shahada, for taking the extra step necessary to obtain coverage this year, because when we submitted the application to Travelers and some of the other carriers, all of the carriers companies are requiring multi-factor authentication to be in place to even obtain a quote. And without their hard work and expediency in getting this in place, we would not have received any coverage. And so that's just an additional step the district has put in place in addition to everything that has been done since the attack to mitigate our risk and liability with the growing threat of cyber terrorism and everything that we see going on right now with that. So definitely want to thank their team for getting that in place for us. $17,658 is an increase from what we have seen in previous year. Last year we were about at $11,000, but again, just with the landscape of what's going on globally with cybersecurity and terrorism and that nature, I feel like this is a very small price to pay for that additional protection and coverage.
Any discussion?
Make
Sure.
a-
Was there an additional cost by doing that authentication for, it's just, there's no cost really to do it?
No,
Just getting it done?
There's a piece of software that
Good.
On the whole, what we did so far, though, hasn't cost us a penny.
Awesome. Thank you for the hard work, too. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
making
also
that
just to
happen so quickly.
just to add, for the board's information, we did receive another quote from Chubb's, and they were about $30,000, so about twice the price of Travelers. And we have been with Travelers since the very beginning, and they have provided excellent service to us amidst the cyber attack, and we feel very comfortable with Arrow Group's recommendation of continuing coverage with them.
Beautiful. All right.
Questions, discussion?
Make a motion to approve?
I'll second that motion.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Roulette?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Mr. Allen?
Yes, thank you. Next item, number 90, new business. We have none. 91, move to executive session.
Make a motion that we move to executive session?
I'll second that motion.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Roulette?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Mr. Allen?
Yes. We are right on schedule.
Executive session at 6:49 PM to discuss the employment contract of Dr. Janet Vinson, the Superintendent of Schools, as authorized by Oklahoma Statute Title 25, Section 307B1. Also to discuss the purchase and contractual terms of certain real property as authorized by Oklahoma Statute Title 25, Section 307B3. Dr. Vincent, pursuant to Oklahoma Statute 25, Section 307B2. The Board of Education returned to open session at 7:19. This constitutes the minutes of executive session.
All right, thank you. Next item, number 93, to approve or disapprove changes to the superintendent's contract.
Make a motion to approve?
Second that motion?
Motion and a second, please call the roll.
Wait a minute. John, you seconded?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Mrs. Roulette?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Mr. Allen?
Yes. Next item will be to approve or disapprove the purchase of contractual terms of certain real estate.
Make a motion to approve?
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second, please call the roll.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Mrs. Roulette?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Mr. Allen?
Yes. Next item will be to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second, please call the roll. I'm sorry.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Cockrell?
Yes.
Ms. Roulette?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Okay, Board of Education, this is Miss Debbie's last board meeting, so I think we need to give her a big thanks. She is retiring to go be home with grandbabies, so that's I'm very
and
jealous.
her new pool. She just had a new
Oh,
pool put
man,
in, so she could.
I am jealous.
Man.
So she can chill.
Yeah, yeah. No, you've been
Nice
awesome,
going,
Debbie.
Debbie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie, for what
It's
you've done.
been quite exciting and quite a
Mr. Allen,
challenge.
you need to vote last time.
Well, you've lived through
We
some
called
rough
it
stuff with us.
Frenchie.